Hi guys, and welcome back to Go Roughly Around the World.
And welcome to our Airbnb here in Costa Rica. We've got several competing things going on. We have construction going on at the neighbors, so he's blasting away. We've got a windstorm that's just ripping through this incredible view of mountains beyond mountains, but you can't see it at all because the sun is there and it's totally backlit.
Yeah, so you can't see it. Sorry.
Nobody's bringing a lighting studio on a couple of motorcycles. So bear with us. It is an adventure after all.
Yeah, and we've got Whimsy down here, so just be prepared that she will pop up at any moment.
Every time you press the record button, she just she comes alive. We really should drug her, is what we should do. We should a bone laced with,
the CBD treats, those anxiety relaxers.
That's what we need for recording.
Anyhow. So Go Roughly Around the World, we didn't expect...
We also have Western Union here.
Yeah, well they really screwed us. The fees were a lot. Don't use Western Union in Costa Rica. Not
good. Horrible this time.
Back to it. So Go Roughly Around the World. We did not expect that this was going to be this never-ending soap opera of an adventure. We purposefully set out so that we would do a number of challenges along the way. And these were supposed to be things that were going to make us better people, that were going to be hard for us and make us get outside of our comfort zone.
Push us a bit, to grow.
Yeah. And all the while showing off our Roughly gear in the K9 Moto cockpit. That was the goal. So we've been doing
raising for Girl Up. Exactly. There's a lot of talking points when it comes down to it, right?
I know. I'm trying to keep it brief.
What kind of an elevator pitch can you do with this? There's too many things.
I know. So we've been doing really great. Season 1 culminated with us reaching the Arctic Ocean, which was this big challenge for me with the Dempster Highway. We did that with Moxie. Season 2 was...
culminated, with my motorcycle accident. I wouldn't call that a challenge.
I know. I don't know what you would say. That it's a...
I'm thinking of extraordinary events.
An event.
So we either challenge ourselves or we fall on our faces,
and
break hands. Yeah, all of these. And we lost Moxie.
Yeah, that was season 2. And then season 3 was the pilgrimage that we did in honor of Moxie. And at the end of it, we introduced you guys to Whimsy, our new pup.
Extraordinary event.
Yeah, extraordinary event.
Who's not really much of a pup anymore.
But she was also much of a challenge.
Does that make it sound like she's not much of anything? Or she's just not, you read between the lines,
yes.
She's more of a dog than a pup now?
She's more of a dog because she's almost 9 months old.
Yeah.
So that was season 3. Season 4, which is what we're in right now, the end of this is going to be crossing the Darien Gap. So the Darien Gap, for those of you who don't know, it's...
dun dun dun. Sorry, yeah.
So the Darien Gap is the distance between Panama and Colombia where the Pan American Highway ends. The Pan American Highway is this highway that runs all the way north to south, except in this one stretch. They didn't complete the highway in Panama at Yavisa. It stops there and then it picks up again on the Colombian side. But in between that is a bunch of jungle. There's swamps.
A bunch of them, like a gaggle of jungle.
A gaggle of jungle?
A herd of jungle. A flock of jungle.
A flock? Yeah, a clutch.
A clutch of jungle. That's what it is, actually.
And so it's supposedly like this no man's land area. And the challenge with the Darien is, there are a few challenges with it. Number one, it's an area that's known for crime. So the FARC from Colombia, they operate in that area.
It's a lot of trust that I get to divide up the money, because clearly my pile is growing more quickly.
My pile needs to be high. Well, then again, you pay for the gas when we stop, so you can have more.
That is true.
At this moment.
So, the Darien.
Yeah. So now I just lost my train of thought.
Well, it's dense jungle.
Yes, no,
right?
I was back to the cartels and the FARC.
Oh, you went right to the
the
cartels
that's why
and the
it's
FARC
considered a challenge. Yes, the landscape is challenging.
It's not the snakes and the
snakes and the animals that are there, the jungles, all the mosquitoes. There is some terrain that you have to go over. There's some mountainous areas, and it's hot and humid. It is the jungle. So there are those considerations. The other considerations was the security issues, and I was saying about the FARC operated in that area. There's also drug cartels and stuff that operate there because it's sort of lawless in that sense. And so there's that. And then the third big thing that's been happening more and more recently is the migrants. So there are a lot of migrants that are coming from all different areas.
the Caribbean, from
the
Africa?
Caribbean, from Africa, even from Asia. They come through
Venezuela,
this way. Right? Yeah, and all from South America. And they land, from my understanding is that they land somewhere and then they get to Colombia and then they make their way from Colombia through the Darien up into Panama. And there are some known routes there that the migrants go, and there can be thousands at a time. And so there's obviously a lot that goes on with migrants, people who are desperate and trying to make their way up to the United States. And so that can have its own crime implications.
Insecurity, yeah. I mean, it's what it is.
Yeah. So there's the migrant issue, there's the security, there's the drug issues, that's what's happening in that area. It's not like it's 100% lawless. There's border patrol on both sides that are there to protect the people in the areas. So they are operating there. But it's this sort of unknown area. There are not many people that have been able to cross it.
Quite few. And I mean, when we say people, obviously, like, we're talking travelers, obviously, because clearly many migrants have crossed it and are crossing it, and they are people.
Yes, yes.
Very much so, and sort of with none of the resources that an overland traveler would have. So, that's daring. But there are overland travelers who have done it, not many, quite few. And, the question is, an overland traveler, by overland we mean like you've got some vehicle or something. You have to, what do you do about your vehicle? How do you get yourself across? And what do you do about this jungle that is really daunting, that's really imposing, right?
Yeah. So there are a few ways that you can cross the Darien Gap. Sorry, I'm organizing my GoPros. So the first one is to fly. And so you can fly basically everything if you don't have a big truck.
Yeah, I guess like one of those Earth ships can't be flown.
I don't know, but we're talking about motorcyclists. So you can fly yourself. There's a bunch of airlines. It's only an hour and a half flight from Panama City to Bogota, Colombia.
Relatively inexpensive.
Yeah, it's not that expensive. So that's for you as a person. For a dog, there's all of the sort of hoopla that goes into flying a dog.
Look, it's never an easy, simple thing to fly a big dog. No. I mean, maybe a little pocket-sized dog.
No, but Whimsy's now like getting to 55 to 60 pounds. So she would have to go as unaccompanied cargo. And like, it's a short flight, but still there's all of you have to get the crate, you have to get all of the documentations, and then
the flight documentation for a dog is considerely more
rigorous than it is for overland.
Yeah.
So there would be those considerations. And then the motorcycles can fly too. There's
you got to strip them down. You got to basically take all your luggage off.
But they crate them so that you put them on a crate.
Battery comes out. I mean, it also is a to-do.
Yeah.
I mean,
and the costs for what I'm seeing, it's somewhere between $1,000 and $1,500 depending on your bike size and all of that. So that would be the cost. And we have done that before. Greg and I, we did a North to South America trip in 2013. And that's what we did. We flew ourselves and we flew the bikes across. And it was really, really simple. Like, you bring them to the cargo place, you do all of
I think it was simple because I spoke Spanish.
Yeah. Okay, fine.
I think this is where perspectives come in. Points of view.
At my lip.
Did I? I hit you right there. I was actually aiming a little higher, but and so simple. It's logistical.
There are companies
hurdles.
like Air Cargo Pack and those ones that they do speak English, and they can help you with all of the documentation that you would need. So you can pay for them to do the majority of the customs documentation and all of that. So in that sense,
we did it well. We did it directly with the shipping company, the cargo flight. Mm-hmm. So yes, we subsidized our own selves in the challenges of that.
Yeah.
And then there's by boat, right?
Yeah, so that was flying
by sea.
Yeah. So by boat, there used to be this ship called the Stallrath that would go from Panama to Colombia. Where would you did
back
this?
and forth? Yeah. No. So that was like this 18th century, 17th or 19th century, 1800s, right? Sailing vessel that was modernized, and they would do, I wouldn't say pleasure cruises, but essentially travelers, backpackers, and some motorcycles. And it was large enough at like 130 or 150 feet to accommodate 3, 4,
Motorcycles.
5 motorbikes. And so that was really popular, and it was a question of having to coordinate the timing, because when they're gone, and when they come back, they're back.
Yeah.
Which all goes without saying.
Yeah.
And a few other, I think, vessels of some size to be able to accommodate a bike.
Wild card, I think, was another
Yeah,
one.
less maybe comfortably, but...
But anyhow, so they're no
those
longer...
are all gone, right?
Yeah, they're no longer running. They've repurposed them for other things, and so there aren't any big boats that you could take across, like the Stallrath. But
so, I mean, there's no ferries at this point?
there's no ferries.
There's
but-
got to be, like, you probably ultimately can go, no, bud. You can probably ultimately go down to the dock, and there are pirate-like captains of various sized vessels. Did I shoot you again?
No.
And work something out. But again, one thing is getting yourself over, the other thing is getting your bike over. And I've done that, getting myself over.
Yes.
And it was definitely a pirate-like captain. I mean, he was a scumbag, first rate and second rate.
And he did it with his dad.
He was a B-level scumbag. Yeah, basically I was just vomiting the whole time. My dad basically had to steer the ship. It was like a 30-footer, and I mean the captain just went down and went to sleep. It was like, wake me up in the morning. So
there's that.
takes all kinds with that. Do your research.
Yeah, so there are some boats that do it. You just have to make sure that. I think one of the issues that not the Stallrath, but one of them came into was the documentation that you need, like to be able to clear your bike on both sides. And that's the struggle if you do it privately. You have to make sure that you have the right documentation by leaving Panama to be able to enter into Colombia. And I think that's something that they struggled with.
Yes, struggles upon struggles. So,
so by boat, there's the possibility to do it. There's also sort of like the way that
And
Itchy
where does-
Boots
well,
did it as
yeah.
well. She did it by doing smaller boats, and she
Along
sort
the
of
coast.
jumped along.
Yeah.
But again, you'd have to arrange with
she
people
has
along the way.
She has one bike. It is
smaller
a
bike.
smaller bike, and so while I don't know that that's a deal breaker with 2 larger Tigers, it is a little bit more complex.
Yeah,
for
well,
sure.
I saw some of the boats were smaller. It's
Yeah.
not like they were yachts.
Yeah.
So you'd have to think about that, and
Now the dog on the boat is
it's okay. I think
Doable.
it would be fine. We would just make sure she'd pee and poop beforehand. She's been on boats. We did the bioluminescence here in Costa Rica, and that was lovely. And she stayed on the boat just fine while we went snorkeling.
for an hour, not for days, but yes.
Well, yeah, fine. But it's not like you're going to go right into the big sea and never come back to shore. Like you go
Into the big sea.
the big sea.
Yeah. So
So the dog, I think
dog-wise,
that she would be okay. So that's that. And so that was the plane, that was the boat, and then the last stop.
so it's actually 1 if by land, but now we're coming to land. So we
Land.
went backwards.
That's fine. We
3
can
was
land
by
there.
air, 2 was by sea, 1 is by land now.
Fine,
so
land.
we're at land
Or we're at land.
or jungle.
Jungle, cross, trek. Okay,
Trekking.
trekking. This is not something that you see people doing. Travelers, again, migrants a lot.
You don't see them doing that either, right?
Who?
The migrants.
Migrants, no, because there's not a lot of filming.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we've looked into this. This is a tough thing to do.
We're in the, I think, advanced stages of obtaining the permissions. So all of that is to say that it's looking good so far, as Maverick said. Crashed and burned the first time, but it's looking good so far. So we're hopeful.
Yes, very hopeful that this is going to work. So one of the things that you definitely need is the buy-in from Senafront. So Senafront is the Panamanian Border Patrol, and they're the ones who are in charge of all the area by the Darien. So the Darien itself, there's a Darien National Park, and then there's area on either side of the Darien National Park that's not part of the park.
Yeah.
But Senafront controls that area, and they're the ones. They're very. Their mandate is to protect that area. So that means protecting the migrants that come through and protecting visitors that go in there, because they do have tours. You can do like treks into the Darien National Park, which is the area in the middle. If you look on the map, in the middle of the border area.
Before the border, right?
Yeah. And so you can go in there. There's a lot of biodiversity. People go in there for bird watching, for like mushroom hunting. There's a whole bunch of like different types of things you can do.
She's literally resting
just
her.
moved.
She just kicked the chair and she was resting her snout
Oh,
on my
Lindsay.
foot. So it takes all kinds with her.
But yeah, so there are treks that do it because in the Darien National Park itself, there are indigenous communities that are there that have been there for a long time, and people can go in and be with the
Tourism.
indigenous people. Tourism.
Some degree of tourism.
Yeah.
I mean, it's very, I think, wow, that was like an eagle that just shot right by. That's, I mean, having.
If only we could just turn around.
Which you didn't get to see at all. Maybe in the window. You never know. In the mirror. But I was going to say, I mean, there's a fledgling, let's call it fledgling tourism.
Yeah.
In the Darien.
Yeah, there are a few tour operators that we've been speaking with to see how they do it.
But the border is never involved in their movements.
That is the biggest issue about going by overland. So I don't think
you can say by overland. It's
like going
by land or overland.
By overland.
Yeah.
You can't buy overland?
You can't buy overland.
Okay.
No. You go overland.
Go overland.
Yeah. We do this all the time.
So there are two.
So if you go by overland.
There are two ways that you can do it. I talked about the migrants. The migrants generally go Colombia to Panama, but you can basically go the reverse way, Panama to Colombia, using that same route. And they basically follow the northern part. If you look on the map, there's areas at the north that have towns right on the coast, and then you can cross through. It's still considered the Darien. It's not part of the national park, but it's its own area.
Yeah,
and
it's
then
not like
down.
Darien light because it's still jungles and swamps and stuff. And it's just that you're getting what is the sort of margin, not the margin, but like the edge. The edge. You're edging.
Whatever. You're to edging get around, yeah. And that still involves like taking some boats along the rivers, also like boats along the coast to get around to certain areas.
And so there are border crossing. There's a border crossing.
So that's the biggest issue that we've come across when we've been researching this is we will need to be stamped in and out of Panama, out and in of Panama and into Colombia. Yes. And Whimsy's documentation needs to be on point for leaving Panama and entering Colombia. And so there really is only that one border crossing that's legit on the northern part where the migrants go. And so you can do that. We know somebody who's done it from Colombia to Panama and went that way. So that's one option. The other option is to go through the national park, which is supposedly a more beautiful way to do it.
They have the route, the ancestral route.
The ancestral route, which migrants used to take, but now they instead go the northern route. But that area goes through the indigenous communities. It's lush, supposedly,
and it is much more coinciding with the originally planned route for the continuation of the Pan American Highway, in part because there's a lot of mineral and forestry resources to extract and exploit there.
Yeah.
But
so those are the two routes. The issue with the one in the national park is that there is no border control at the borders. So you would basically be leaving Panama illegally and then entering Colombia illegally.
Yeah.
So that's something that we've been working with Senafront on, which is the Border Patrol. They are the ones who are in charge of that. They're the ones in charge of security. And after speaking with them, we've been figuring out what the best route is going to be for us.
So it looks like there's an actual office prior to your visa, right? Where you can get stamped out.
Yes, exactly. So, but if you get stamped out before you're even at the border, you're going to need some sort of protection or some sort of security because you've basically already been stamped out of the country, but you're still in the country. And so that's something that we're working with Senafront is in order to get all of the permissions that we need to not only get into the national park with the dog and that area, but also to get stamped in and out and for Whimsy's documentation.
Which, to be fair, we're not talking about, highly regulated Yosemite or Yellowstone here. I mean, it's a national park by designation, but it's made very clear to us that there are communities, and in those communities, there are dogs, and there are many street dogs and feral dogs. I mean, this is not like stay on the paved Yosemite highway that goes through it and don't bring your dog because there's like patrols and stuff. I mean, there's national parks and there's national parks, at least from a standpoint of regulations.
Yeah.
And yet, we're not looking to do anything.
No, we're looking to get the right permissions in order to do this properly.
Yeah, buy Overland and buy the book.
I know. I sometimes have a bit of a word soup when I talk. I know. But so that's what we're at right now. So like I said, we're in talks with Senafront to get the proper permissions. The other thing that we would want is a guide to take us through the area. There are actually, if you go on Wikilocs, there is you can actually see the path that other people have taken in the past and have marked it. And so that's what we would do. And so again, that would involve us taking a boat down one of the rivers and then stopping and then hiking.
Well, I think there's really no version of this that doesn't involve boats.
No, but we're talking
so we say
boats.
trekking, and there's plenty of trekking, but a boat to then have to cross to where there's maybe another river. So it is one if by land and two if by river. And I mean, you could do it by not using any rivers, but I don't know why you would want to do that. I mean, rivers are there, and so it is an amphibious crossing.
And I don't think we said how long it would take. So you could do it quickly. You could get to the border within a day from Yavisa,
which also has to do with kind of blasting through.
Yeah, that's what the tour guides
get on the
do,
boat,
basically.
go. Hike really fast.
Yeah. But they're not doing it in the area that we would be doing it. So we are planning it would be about a 5-day hike from when we start to when we end. And so in terms of the permission, sorry, I'm going back and forth, but back to the permissions issue, which is what I'm concerned about the most because I do the logistics of all this. Once we enter into Colombia, we will need to also go to a border control area to get stamped in, because we'll have been stamped out on the Panama side, but again on the Colombia side there's nothing.
So there's this period where you're in Colombia and you don't exist in Colombia. So physically you do, but legally you don't.
Yeah. So there again, it's the sort of the same situation on the Colombian side of the Darien. There is a national park there as well. We're going to need permissions on that side in order to get us up to close to where, I guess, if you look on the map, it's close to where Turbo is. That's where we would need to go in order to sort of get our documents and things sorted. And then once we get there, then it's sort of home free to get us back down to Bogota to pick up our bikes that we will have shipped.
Which have presumably arrived safely and
are just waiting for
us. And then we can collect them, put everything all back together. And so did we even ever say, we weren't planning to do this with our bikes?
Oh.
We're not planning to do this with our bikes.
Yeah, I don't want to bring my beautiful Tiger into the... If you watch... So we watched the documentary that the ex-military guys did, Where the Road Ends, I believe it's called. And... they really struggled. They didn't really get to ride. They were hauling their bikes through a lot of it. And they had KLRs, which are really beefy bikes for that type of stuff, but still.
And the tractors to get through there.
And they blew out their clutches. And so it was a real struggle. So it wasn't really riding so much as trying
It wasn't riding, I think, at all, at least from what they filmed. And it does beg the question, I mean, if you're a purist in the sense of no, my vehicle stays with me the entire time, and then, okay, I mean, you strap tethers and ropes to it and you drag it up jungle mountains and then down the other side, you put it on these little boats and...
Yeah, that's just not really what we want to be doing. We love our bikes. I love the way that mine looks. As she just
you ride on roads and you ride on tracks, but you don't necessarily drag it, through the jungle.
Yeah. So and plus our bikes obviously, I have an obviously issue.
Yeah,
sorry.
It obviously serves the purpose to basically make
it
everything
sound like everyone should know what I'm saying.
Well, and that what you're about to say has no real why we even say obviously?
Yeah.
It's really dangerous.
Okay,
obviously.
so I take it out. Back delete. Our bikes, they have a value to them. When we already know that there's a bit of insecurity in that area,
they'd be a target,
and
right?
It could be a target. Back and talking about targets, we've been asked when we've been talked about this a little bit. We've mentioned that we were hoping to trek the Darien. People ask about the dog and how is she going to handle it, and are we concerned about people stealing her? Mm-hmm. There is a concern there that
there's always a concern. I mean,
how many times have we been asked can I have your dog?
Yeah. Whimsy is a big white target. She's just this big bundle she's like a mini polar bear. She's just big and white unless she's covered in mud.
Yeah.
So it's a little bit like
it's the same thing if they saw us with our iPhones and wanting to have it. Like there's a
anytime, anywhere. I mean, it's just not impossible. But dogs and breeds of dogs get stolen, right out front of your home. So are the dangers there greater in that sense that somehow in the middle of this jungle, like we want this white dog that is different than here in Costa Rica, she'd be very valuable, or back in LA, she'd be very valuable. I don't necessarily see it like that. If somebody can present evidence to me that the theft, the per capita theft of dogs,
Darien,
is higher, then I'll be persuaded by the numbers. But a lot of those things become a thing because, I'm looking for why this is a bad thing to do.
And like I mentioned, we will likely have a guide that will take us, and there's also the good possibility that we would have an escort from Senafront, which is what we're working out right now. So there would be the hope of but essentially they do patrols as you would expect a military unit to do, and they're not entirely against having someone join them, particularly someone I guess who's not with the newspapers. But for Whimsy, like she's gonna do fine with the hikes. We've already done a few hikes with her. She's in good condition. We'll have all of the required things.
We've changed her oil, air filter is clean. She's
for Mona, I was like, what oil?
She idles. It's like a just perfect beat.
So I think physically she'll be fine, and we're gonna take whatever precautions we need.
Well, her vaccines are all up to date. What else is there?
That's it.
Those things. I mean, Look, there's dangers and hazards in anything, and people like to say walking out of your front door, there's hazards. That's true. There's fewer hazards than riding around the world.
So today we're recording this is January 23rd. We're hoping in 1 month's time is when we're going to start this trek. So at the end of February, for the 5 days. Who knows, it could end up being longer, but that's what our plan is. We're going to be crossing into Panama in the next few days. We're going to be having all of our in-person meetings with the appropriate authorities in Panama. We'll share that with you guys as we continue. But the other thing that we did want to say... Right,
so this all takes us to just the update for all of you watching, all three of you watching. So we will be on hiatus for Go Roughly Around the World episodes over what would be the next, I guess, month or two, really, or so. For the clear purpose that we've got a lot of prepping to do. And, we're running roughly, and we're coming into the big season. And we're about to tackle the Darien.
Yes, and we need to get all of that organized. So once we get it organized, actually do it, we're going to take some time after the Darien to put together the footage that we'll have captured from all of this, and then we'll be able to share it with you guys. So if we survive and make it across, we'll be able to show.
To be fair, we say that about everything we do. Like, we're going to go out for dinner tonight. Okay, I mean, if we survive that, then, I'll give you a back massage when we get back. I mean, so survival is never a certainty with Go Roughly.
But that's what we're going to be doing. So you're not going to hear from us from a little bit. We'll still be on our other channels on Instagram and on Facebook posting some stuff along the way. If you want more up-to-date stuff, I do post the stories on Instagram on our Go Roughly account, so you can sort of follow along. We're probably a few weeks behind.
Near real time, simply.
But it's closer than if you're just watching our episodes on YouTube, because Greg still has us in Mexico, I think. Right?
Yeah, that's how it goes when it's a weekly. And it's probably a good moment for a Patreon plug, because we will usually we do behind the scenes of each episode. In this period, we'll do a kind of update from the road, so that's going to be extremely timely.
And we'll be giving you information about how we're handling the dairy and the logistics, all of that. So if that's something that interests you and you want to support, come to Patreon. I think we have it as a give what you can, and you'll get everything that we have.
Yeah, we'll do it for kibble.
We'll do it for kibble. At least Whimsy would. She'd do it for anything, but... So do that on Patreon, and then
I feel like we've gotten lower over this.
Are we?
The kind of the oppression of the filming.
No, not at all. I'm excited about this. This is going to be good. But the other thing I wanted to say is, again, Go Roughly Around the World. It's a $100,000 fundraiser for Girl Up. We're continuing to support these girls in all of these countries. They have groups here in Costa Rica. They have groups in Panama. We're actually going to hopefully see groups in Colombia after we cross and share that with you guys. But again, like the purpose of Go Roughly is to inspire people to go out there and do something that's a bit challenging for them.
With their dog.
With their dog. And when it comes to Girl Up, the reason why we partnered with them is because they provide leadership and development training for girls all around the world. And these are things that I wish that I had. Like I'm a work in progress. Obviously, you can tell with my word soup and everything. Obviously. Again, that's... So I feel like if I had a bit more of that community that these girls have and that Girl Up provides, I think I would be further along than I am right now. So I just want to say if it's something that's really near and dear to my heart.
If you've got a daughter, if you've got a sister, a mother, a grandmother. Or if you're
interested in helping to support these girls all around the world in all of these developing countries as well, developed and developing, to help them be leaders in their community and fight for changes and things that matter to them.
If you know any girls...
that sounds bad.
If you heard of any girls before,
anyhow, you can donate on GoRuffly.com. There's a donate now button. We're at really close to 20,000 out of our $100,000 goal, and we're going to continue to push on this. So if you'd like to support, that would be a great way to do it.
Okay, so watch this space because the Darien crossing is coming. Absolutely, if you have information. If you've done it, if you know it, well,
like it's if we're what
proof of life,
yes, or like a wanted thing.
Yeah. If you've seen these persons, no, I mean, look, this is a work in progress in real time, at least. Like if you watch this a year from now, then
then obviously we made it or we died. So one or the other.
Survival is always in question.
Yes.
So, any comments, anything to share about it, we'd love to hear it.
And if you decide to tell us that you think that we're crazy and it's dangerous and all of that.
Keep that to yourself.
Yeah,
Nobody needs to hear it.
Or share it, but just know that we won't really respond to it.
Do it respectfully.
Yeah.
Just be nice about it.
Yeah. We're happy with our decisions.
My mother has always said, you can tell someone that they're a piece of shit. Just do it in a nice way, and they probably will agree with you.
Yeah.
So tell us we're a piece of shit. Just do it nicely and respectfully is all. I am going to civilize the internet.
There you go. Okay, guys. We'll talk to you soon.